Once again, thanks for joining this afternoon. It's Travis Hargett with Matt Mallory with Eastridge. Let me give you, we've got about 30 minutes this afternoon. I want this to be mainly focused on demo and kind of demo heavy. But I want to give you a little bit of background, tell you who the heck we are at Eastridge. We're a Microsoft Systems integration firm focusing on 365, SharePoint, Azure, and CRM Online. We've been working with the guys at Nintex for probably the last 7 or 8 years, mainly around SharePoint initially, but now lots and lots of work around Office 365, Forms, and iPads. Now, you may wonder, okay, so what is Nintex? What do they do? They're the largest ISV for SharePoint today. They made an early pitch around the cloud as far as adoption to integrate their workflow tools for SharePoint and their form tools for SharePoint into Office 365. We like them a lot. Their solution is easy to use. We can rapidly create applications, as you're going to see in just a few minutes, and it scales very, very well. For those of you that are not familiar with Nintex at all, with Office 365, the Nintex tools really break out into 2 forms. There's a workflow tool, which is fantastic. It looks like Visio. You can drag and drop workflows onto a canvas, publish them into SharePoint Online. I can follow up to this session with just a quick video overview of what workflow is. For the purpose of the discussion today, we're really going to look at forms and how cool it is to create forms that interact with SharePoint but don't look like SharePoint forms at all. The real driving value of Nintex for us is that it doesn't take a software developer weeks and weeks to create something. It's literally just a matter of minutes to snap these things together, publish them, and get going. I wanted to show you just a couple quick screenshots before I give it over to Matt. This design and run workflows in the cloud image is what the workflow canvas looks like if you're building workflows in SharePoint Online. And there's a rich ecosystem of connectors and third-party tools that we can work with. So as you know, if you're in the cloud today, you're probably not just doing Microsoft. You may be working with Twitter and Amazon or have connectivity through to Workday or lots of other hosted applications. Nintex supports all of these. And the very last box here is a quick little image of the form designer. So Matt, that was my 5 minutes, my commercial. You've got the floor. I'm going to give you control.
All righty. So we're here today to pretty much talk about using Nintex Forms on an Office 365 site to build out a quick custom form and show you how that's going to translate into the Nintex mobile app on an iPad. So that's kind of how we have it set up. We're going to jump into my screen here, and we're looking at my my default team site, root site collection here. This is just a demo site that we set up. Pretty straightforward Office 365 out of the box look and feel. Nothing real fancy here. I've gone ahead and for those of you that aren't familiar with Office 365, we've kind of got the basic layout, our left navigation here, our ribbon controls. We'll kind of talk a little bit about that. But what we're going to start off with at this point is just creating a straight-up custom list. Pretty straightforward. We're going to go through, we're going to add an app. We're going to create a custom list. The scenario that I have come up with for today is the meter reader. So my small neighborhood that we have, our meter readers come out and read our water meters every month, and it's a very manual, tedious process. And I can't tell you how many times I've spent down at the city utilities office complaining about my water bill. They come out and have to do a reread every couple of weeks. It's very tedious. So my thought here was, an app that basically can be created as a list. They can come out, they can read the meter, they enter the information in, they snap a picture of what the meter actually says, and then once they get back to the office, they upload all that through the app, the Nintex mobile app, into the site and have it there for record. So that's kind of the scenario here. So we create a meter reader list. We're going to go ahead and come in here through the ribbon. We're going to add a couple of extra columns. So we're going to change title first to just be our address. We're going to add another one that is for our actual meter reading. This will be an easy number. We're going to go ahead and require it. The last one is really our attachments. They should already be enabled, but we're going to go ahead and double check. So our attachments for the list are already there. So this is where we're actually going to have the ability to upload a photo in with our settings. So that's pretty much it. Pretty straightforward list. Again, very basic. We haven't done anything with Nintex at this point. It's all been SharePoint. So we can open up, click our new item here. We can type in our information. We can attach a file. Again, nothing real fancy here. Now, again, our focus is Nintex Forms and the iPad. So at this point, we're going to go ahead. I've got Nintex Forms already installed on the application here, so I'm just going to go into List. The nice thing about Nintex is it integrates very nicely with the ribbon and with SharePoint in general. So we have Forms or a Form button here under the Customized List. You'll also notice we have Nintex Workflow over here. Both those apps are installed. They're part of the whole ecosystem now. So when we want to make a change to the form, we can just modify the ribbon. We click Nintex Forms. This actually launches the Nintex Forms app. Again, another one of the beauties about Nintex is that it's all built into SharePoint. There's no third-party interface. There's no no client tool that you have to have, anything like that for designing the form. So it's very straightforward. What Nintex has done here is basically it's taken all of the default form values, the fields, things like that, and it's already built a form based off of what's in the list already. So again, nice thing about this is we really don't have to do much to it. Our forms or our list is pretty straightforward. We have an address, our meter reading, and our attachments. Don't need to do much here.
Matt, if you wanted to make that sexy, you could put graphics on there and make it look very different, though, right? That's just
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, one of the nice things about Nintex and what we like about it so much is that it's easy to work with. It's easy to interface with. We can take some of the branding here. It's drag and drop, so we can drop that. We could add another image in. We could certainly change the layout of this. It's drag and drop. If there are other controls that we want to include, maybe we want to put another image on, it's very straightforward to pull that on. We can double click to configure that item as far as the image, that sort of thing. So again, very straightforward, very easy to use, drag drop interface. There's a lot to it. So at this point we have our desktop form. So this is what right now, when we save and close this, if we go out and modify the form or add a new item, this is the form that we're going to see. We're not going to see the SharePoint form anymore. In this particular case, we want to make our mobile form for it. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to the right, and we're going to click the Add More Layouts. In this list, we have a handful of layouts that we can pick from. Obviously, we are going to add the Nintex mobile tablet. We're showing this on an iPad today. There's a lot of different options there. So this is kind of where we start. Start with the tablet. We can also add additional forms. So if we wanted to extend this to the mobile phone, we can click Add a Mobile Phone Layout. One of the nice things, my favorite things about Nintex when we're going through and doing the forms is that as we extend and add more layouts, you can tell it's really just duplicating the form and moving that along for all of our other layouts. It's changed the layout height and width in order to fit the device that we have, but ultimately everything else that we have is already there. So once we've designed the form for the desktop, moving that over to the other interfaces is pretty easy. So we're going to go ahead and tweak these forms just a little bit. I'm going to take these images out. We're going to pull this up. Again, just some basic kind of layout changes, nothing too exciting. Again, here we can move, drag and drop labels. There was a question about validation. Yes, we can add validation into the forms. There's some rules as well, so we can actually add a rule and make conditional changes in formatting. We can hide elements, different things like that, based off of those different rules. So very flexible there. So at this point, our form's already done. Not very exciting here, but it's very quick and easy. So there is a preview option that you can select, and this is handy. We can click on this. In the preview, it gives us the option of selecting which mode we want to preview it in. We can select again from any one of our device models or our layouts. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it at Nintex Mobile, and I'm going to go ahead and generate the preview. Now, Nintex Mobile is kind of it's a special beast because what we're looking at is an app on the device that's going to interface with the form. So the actual preview happens a little different. If I were to select desktop mode, it would actually render in a window, in a pop-up window, the form, and we could go through and fill it out. When we hit save or cancel, it's not actually going to submit any data. Because of the way that Nintex Mobile works, it has to actually publish that a little differently. So in this case, what it's done is it's gone ahead and published it, but it's published it into a preview category. So when we switch over to the device, we'll actually see that and can go look at it. This gives us the ability to launch the Nintex Mobile app, open up the form. We'll see it there in our categories. We can click on it, we open it up, we can flip through it, we can add data to it, and when we submit it, it will actually submit. It won't send any data to SharePoint, but at that point, once we submit it, it goes ahead and pulls that form out of that preview category and basically removes it from the preview.
Matt, would you like to explain what are the advantages of using the Nintex mobile app versus simply creating a form directly for an iPad?
Well, the biggest one in this case is offline transport. So for Nintex Mobile, one of the biggest advantages is that once we have the form built, once we launch and essentially do our initial sync with the site, we get all the content for the form, how it's laid out, where it belongs. I believe some of the lookup information is there, but some of that may need to be either cached or connected in order to get some of that. But ultimately, the idea is that once it's there on the device, we can actually go offline. In our demo case here, we can take the iPad out in the field. We can take pictures. We can fill out forms. All of that information gets saved in the app. When we get back to our site or to where we have a data connection, we can start that back up, and it goes ahead and syncs and sends all the data that we've taken over to the SharePoint site and goes ahead and posts it. So that's probably one of the biggest advantages to it, is the offline connectivity. So another one that's kind of interesting is that on the Nintex mobile app, essentially what you're doing is you're leveraging all of the native controls within the device. So where if you were to do it as a SharePoint site and do the form, you've got to deal with cross-browser compatibility, all sorts of issues around that. When we use the app knows how to translate the controls and build them on the device, whether you're using an Android, a Windows phone, or iPhone, whatever. So those are the two key, I guess, takeaways from why you would want to use mobile apps versus just a mobile rendering of the form.
Thanks.
So we're going to go ahead and click OK on this. One last thing is, again, we kind of talked about the categories. Categories are pretty basic. They're just a way to kind of set these up in the device itself. So we can come in here. We're going to add a category of just processes. We're going to save it. We're going to go ahead and publish this as well. So here we get the option of publishing what layouts we want. We've got the three different the three different layouts. So we're going to go ahead and just publish all those. And it's going to come up and say that it's finished. and then we can go ahead and close this and go back to our SharePoint site. So right here we're at our meter reading site. This is all well and good. So now let's move over to our iPad and see what we're doing with the mobile app. So here is basically the iPad with the mobile app launched. The first thing that we have to do, obviously, is authenticate. So we can do this either as a corporate account with an on-premise, or the on-premise obviously has to be exposed to the internet if that's the way that we're doing this. Or we can leverage the Nintex Live account through our Microsoft account, or in this case, we do our Office 365. So I'm going to go ahead and tap Office 365. We're going to put in our information for our authentication here.
And while Matt's doing that, I'll give him a chance to actually type this. This is a kind of a demo environment, so he's having to key this in every time. Typically, our enterprise customers that have a full hybrid trust Office 365 scenario, these devices, if they're managed, it's a much quicker on-ramp to get to the application without having to authenticate every single time. But of course, you will have some scenarios where they may be on an unmanaged device but still need to access it, and typically those links would be saved as a hot link or as a favorite, and then they simply have to enter their information and authenticate.
All right, sweet. I didn't mistype any password there, so that's awesome. Always good when that happens. So now we're actually authenticated in the form. So once I'm authenticated, I only have to do that once per site. So now if I go ahead and close this, I go back to my home screen, I can launch it again. I'm pretty much back there. And obviously, if anybody's used an iPad, they know that, well, that's pretty straightforward because it never went away. So we'll launch it. We'll go ahead and launch it again. It'll come up, refresh the site. Again, here's all my forms. So at this point right here, because I know what my forms are, I can click on the meter reader. I can see the actual form in here. I can close this. Right here, I can disconnect from my Wi-Fi and go out and launch the report or launch the form and fill it out. When I close it, it'll actually say that it's stored in drafts. So you'll kind of see we have on the left, we've got forms, drafts, outbox, and settings. These are kind of basic information. Some of the things that we have in settings, again, it kind of shows you some of the information here. Important part here is we can sign out at this point, and once we sign out here, when we launch the app again, we'll have to re-authenticate. So there is ways that you can kind of forget the information that's in the app. Again, some other things are using cellular data to actually submit form information as well as the photo resize. So that's pretty basic there. On the forms, again, you see we have the preview with the meter reader, so we're going to go ahead and launch it. We can see our information here, so we can go ahead and type in, our address, our meter reading. Again, it's subtle, and you may not have noticed it, but when I created the meter reading, I told it it was a number, and again, the iOS operating system recognizes that, so when I tap in that field, it went ahead and automatically set my keyboard to the number keys. Again, I go back to text. So again, this is one of the advantages of using those native controls. In attachments, we can come in here, we can click on our media library, and we can find our meter reading picture that we took. This is the picture of my meter. Very exciting. I think, Travis, you said yesterday it looked like a bomb dropped. That's about right. I'm sure there's a spider in there somewhere, at least one, but that's all great. So again, we're in the preview mode right here. So if I hit submit, it's going to go ahead and say, okay, it's in my outbox. In a second here, that should go away. If I drop and pull this down and refresh that data, you'll actually see that preview one will go away. So that's it. So another nice thing here is we also have the ability to tap right into our camera for our attachments. So right here I can select camera. I can actually pick up my iPad and I can snap a fantastic little picture here of Spider-Man giving you a big thumbs up. I hit use photo. It's going to process a little bit and then it's going to dump it into my form. So from here, I can go ahead and hit back. I'll hit submit. Now in this case, I'm in the live form, So again, we'll see it in the outbox. Should take a little bit, and then it'll go away. Now at this point, it should be on our SharePoint site. So if we actually disconnect here real fast, go back to our iPad, refresh our meter reading site here, we should see this entry. We can click on it, actually pop this up. You'll see the Nintex Form version. This is the desktop layout that we built here. We can click on the image. We can see our lovely picture that we took. We can go back. We can verify our reading information this way. So that really is the basics of it. Some of the other advanced things are, again, like I said, we have drafts. So I can actually open up, here's another form that I've kind of created to show some of the other advantages of using kind of the native app. In the user field, so this is time off request. In the user, I see that it's required, so I can actually click in here and I type in my user. I could say search the server for that username. This is one of those that, obviously this is going to require a connection to go out and get that information. If I had already gone through and had searched some people, so in my case, me, this would already be listed here, so I could just pick that. It's going to put that information in. I can select my start date. You'll notice that the date selector down here, again, this is native functionality of the iOS, so it's very handy there. We're going to schedule some time off. I'm just going to say, you know what, I'm just going to take a break, and we're going to leave this. This is our item selection, so again, pretty straightforward as far as which one we pick. We're going to go ahead and just say it's top time. You're gonna approve this right away, right?
Sure.
Travis?
Sure.
So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and close it, and I'm just going to say save as draft. So now this basically sits here in my form or in my drafts box. We could do this with the meter reading. So again, the concept of the scenario, the meter reading. I'm out there. I go out and read. The house 3 doors down, and the other 3 houses. They're all sitting in my drafts at this point. So whether I choose to do them in my drafts and then come through and modify them, maybe add some more data or whatnot, and then I hit submit, or whether I hit submit and just leave it in the outbox and let it sync up when I get there, either way works. So again, there's some advantages there. Some other things, we have in our outbox and in our drafts, we have an edit button here. Let me go ahead and just put another one of these in just for kicks and giggles. You can go ahead and save this as a draft to show it on our drafts. So if we click on our drafts, we can see that our meter reading is there. We have this edit button in the top right. We can actually go through and select and delete these drafts as well without having to take them out of, without having to go through and do anything extra to the information. Now we don't have to worry about that. It's not floating out there. We can also do the same with our outbox if we're actually in a sync mode. If we figure that we've done something in error and need to fix it, we can go and delete it, maybe resubmit the entry, things like that. So again, that's kind of the power and the flexibility of the app. So
great. So Matt, in less than 15 minutes, you created a simple form and published it out to different form factors, and pretty cool. Anything else you wanted to show before I close up and give final details here?
Nope, I think that's it. It's one of those things that I struggle with because it is so easy, but that's the beauty of it, right? Is that we can throw up these forms in a really, really quick fashion. We can take the time to go through and modify the forms. Obviously, we just use stock out of the box stuff, but we can add a lot of styling, a lot of different rendering for the forms there. Obviously, that won't show the same in the app because we're kind of forcing the controls and things like that. But it is super easy to go through and do and build out.
Well, thanks so much for showing that. Let me give a little bit more information on where to get this, how much it costs, and how to go forward. So for Nintex, for Office 365, you can get the Nintex workflow and the Nintex form tools directly from the SharePoint store as part of Office 365. You can download this, activate a 30-day trial. Now, to buy it, you'll have to buy it through an authorized partner or reseller, somebody like Eastridge. And so the next question is, oh gosh, how much does this thing cost me? The good news is there's different versions of this tool depending on the size of your company, how many you need, and what you're trying to do with it. So if you're getting 100 licenses, it's about $35 a user per year, and that includes forms. They have a standard edition. Like if you have 1,000 users, it comes down to like $14 a user. And then the enterprise is $720, but that's assuming you're buying 2,500 licenses. There is a kind of a high-end version for customers that have on-premise SharePoint deployed with Nintex workflow. That's a Nintex Complete. And so that allows you to have your Nintex workflows on-premise and Nintex Form on-premise linked directly with Nintex Forms and workflow in the cloud. So I want to thank everybody for attending today. As promised, we're going to send you all our new secret little ebook around Office 365 and the iPad. This is just our observed advantages and tips and tricks, and something that we like to give our customers. And just as a thank you for attending today, we're going to send that to all of you. I'm also going to include a quick little video overview, a link out to YouTube of a demo we did around Nintex workflow if you're interested to see how that works. Because like I said, if you buy Nintex for Office 365, you get both workflow and the Forms tool. With that, if you have a question, you can type it up in our little chat box here. I know we've been chatting. They had a couple of good questions and comments about Spider-Man. If there's no further questions, look for an email follow-up from me, and please reach out to me if you wanted to drill into additional details or have any other questions. So thanks so much for attending today.